Hello, my dears, and welcome. We are here for our Thursday Facebook Live, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. And we are going to be talking specifically about the three things you need to know before you take the leap. So, here's what I know. I've been hearing from so many people about how the past few months have left us feeling really ready to make some changes, and we may be feeling like it's time to take a leap in terms of career or business or relationship or life in general. There's been a lot of sameness we've been experiencing, a lot of status quo, a lot of monotony, even. And as you reflect on what you want your life to look like now and in the future, it's really likely that the dreams that you once pushed aside have reemerged. And they're probably really asking to be heard. They're asking to be considered and paid attention to. So, what often happens is as the truth starts to bubble up inside of us, we've spent a lot of energy and a lot of time in our life tamping that down, pushing down the truth, repressing, suppressing the truth. And what happens instead is that what started as a whisper becomes a scream. And often we don't even pay attention until it's it's actually beginning to come out sideways in us. So I often will say that when we don't tell the truth to ourselves, the truth will come out and the truth will come out sideways. And what actually happens is we create chaos in our lives to avoid the truth. So the truth here is that shifting gears and even changing careers or relationship or whatever it might begin to sound really appealing right about now. You might be feeling sort of fed up or pent up, and that a change is on the horizon. Now, as I'm saying this, I also want to name that there is a saying, and it's the title of one of John Kabat-Zinn's books, wherever you go, there you are. So that's something always to remember when we're looking at making changes. Are we trying to escape something as opposed to moving forward toward something? So I want to just sort of put that seed in here as we talk about taking the leap and making changes in your life. So it's likely that if you're wanting to make a change, you may be feeling overwhelmed. It may feel daunting. It may feel too big. And what I want to let you know here is that you can take any change you want to make and you can micro it down into bite-sized, doable, realistic actions, always. So I want you to remember, though, that making change in your life takes a certain element of confidence and courage that only comes from making the change itself. So, in other words, it's not about waiting until I feel courageous, waiting until I feel fully confident. There is a synergy that happens, and the courage and the confidence and the change coexist and support each other. So I want you just to start thinking about what are the changes you want to make? What are the dreams you've been pushing aside that if you feel might be reemerging, that are longing to be heard, that are longing to be considered? And what are the stories you tell yourself about why something isn't possible? So this is another important piece to pay attention to. What are the excuses? What are the reasons? What are the stories you've been telling yourself about why something isn't possible? So just because something seems hard doesn't mean that it isn't possible. And as we begin to take steps toward our desire, what ends up happening is that the path ahead of us begins to actually open up. So we might find ourselves in a narrow, like on a narrow path. And as we begin moving forward, it begins to open. And I want you to set yourself up for the possibilities that are making themselves available to you. Part of this is always about looking where you can say yes. What's the opportunity presenting itself to you? And what is the action that you're willing to take to create more opportunity? Just a few quick hellos. Hey, Yvette. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Sweet Reenie. Hi, Karina. Welcome, welcome. And just a reminder here that we are talking about making change. And if you are change phobic, you are in the right place, because I want to be able to support you in being able to create the future that you want to live into. And the way we step into that is making choices that meet our desires. So you always want to look at the choices that you're making. Choices are either going to sabotage or serve. So you want to make sure that you're making choices that are serving you. So here's the thing, and why it's so important to do this together and in community. I remember how scared I was, how hard it was to leave my job at Hay House and pursue my own career as an author, coach, speaker, teacher, trainer. I couldn't have done it without some pretty amazing people supporting me and guiding me along the way. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm here to hold you and support you and guide you as you make the changes in your life that you want. I often use the analogy of scaffolding, like scaffolding around a building as it's being built. And I often think about our own healing. We need people to create scaffolding around us so that we can rebuild ourselves inside of that. And so that's the beauty of connection and community. So as we're looking at these 3 things that you need to know before you take the leap, I'm really wanting to support you in looking at this from a practical standpoint. However, I don't want you to get caught up in the how. I don't want you to get caught up in the logistics quite yet. Because what I see time and time again is that we don't allow ourselves to want, we don't allow ourselves to desire, because we've already convinced ourselves that we can't have what we want. So we create that ceiling on top of us. So I want to support you in opening up to knowing that you can have and you can want, but don't get caught up in the how, because as soon as your brain flips over to logistics, there's a little mechanism in there that's going to start convincing you that something isn't possible. So again, if you're looking at shifting gears, I'm here to support you so that you can go after this meaningful life that you're longing for. People often are talking about happiness. And we talked about this the other day in Destination Me, in my private coaching membership. People are often talking about happiness, but you also want to look at what's your own driver. So for me, as I was sharing, happiness isn't my driver, but meaning is my driver. Wanting to be driven by meaning, by something that's meaningful, feeling purpose driven. And that's what ultimately had me shift gears in my career. I was at Hay House. I had my dream job for 12 years. I never in a million years thought I would leave it. Through my own sort of dark night of the soul, if you will, once I was in a situation of crisis, and started to really look at my own life, that's what was the catalyst for me becoming a coach. And I was really doing it just for myself because I wanted to learn more about myself. I wanted to I wanted to do the work of my on my own inner landscape. I wanted to really understand my patterns and my beliefs and understand what how the dots connected in my life. So having gone through that year-long coaching certification program, I came out on the other side completely unrecognizable. And so that experience that I had is what really ignited the sense of meaning and purpose in me to want to use my own experience to help others in their experience. So it's the way that we often hear that the most challenging times of our life end up being the ones that are the most critical in terms of having us be willing to make a change. So the crisis becomes the opportunity, the breakdown becomes the breakthrough. And it was no different for me, and it's no different for the thousands of clients I coach. And so when we're looking here at wanting to make a change, wanting to take the leap, wanting to recalibrate, wanting to shift gears, there's been a lot of talk right now during this time about pivoting. And I'm not really talking about pivoting. I'm not talking about, turning lemons into lemonade. I'm actually talking about reinvention with intention. So, what are you willing to reinvent in your life with clear intent toward making the change? We'll be looking at this over the next few weeks. And today, as we're talking about 3 things that you need to know before you take the leap, the first one is focused around your own truth. The first thing you need to know before you take the leap is what is true for you. Because especially if, listen, I know you. I know you. You are likely overly concerned with what other people think. You're used to looking outside of you for opinions and advice and direction. Or you don't trust yourself enough to know that your choice matters. So you might have been living your whole life up until now doing what everyone else wanted for you while you're sublimating and suppressing what you want for yourself. So the first thing you need to know before you take the leap is what's true for you. What do you want for you versus what does everyone else want for you? That's really, really important. And part of this is learning how to trust your wanting, learning how to trust your own sense of knowing. The codependency occurs when you think someone knows for you what's better for you than you know for yourself. But I'm here to tell you that you are the expert on you. And again, don't get caught up in the logistics, don't get caught up in the how. For now, just ask yourself, what is true for me? What do I want for me? What do I want to do, regardless of other people's opinions? Hey Paula, hey Alyssa, hey Adriana, hi Gail, hi Tamara, hi Sherry. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so the next piece here is really looking at the concept of freedom. So the second thing you need to know before you take the leap is, what is it that you want freedom from? And what is it that you want freedom to? So what if you look at moving away from something, what do you want freedom from? And if you're looking at moving towards something, what is it that you want freedom to do or to have? or to experience. So freedom from and freedom to. Freedom from and freedom to. Let's see. Paula, trust my knowing. I love this. Yes. And then Elizabeth, so true, Nancy. Knowing what I want for myself versus what others wanted has been a huge focus for me the past few years, and it's hard to figure this out. So this is when you get to play. This is when you get to explore. And here's the third piece here. It flows perfectly into what Elizabeth is saying here. Checking in with yourself around what am I good at versus what do I love to do? What am I good at and what do I love to do? We want to find the intersection so that you're not just focused on doing whatever it is that you're good at if it doesn't intersect with what you love. Elizabeth, when you've been programmed to be a certain way for a long time, it is scary to try to feel free to make my own choices. Elizabeth, I feel you so deeply. I lived that way for decades. And I'm not in any way saying that it's easy. And I'm just simply creating for you here an opportunity to begin looking at choices. Looking at what is your truth. What do you want for yourself versus what does everyone want for you? What is it that you want freedom from and freedom to? And what are you good at and what do you love to do and where's the intersection? And then an action you can begin to take this week is simply looking at what you can do to set yourself up to feel as prepared as possible. So once you start getting some clarity, it's about feeling prepared. Preparation breeds confidence. So we'll be spending some time with this over the next few weeks. And be on the lookout. I've got a brand new freebie coming your way. Hopefully, I'll be letting you know about it next week, which is all oriented toward reinvention with intention, so that you can reinvent yourself with intent. And here's what I want to say about the reinvention. To me, the reinvention is actually about returning to your own essence. So the reinvention is actually accessing your most authentic nature. It's the reinvention is what happens when you're taking off the persona and the masks and the cape that you've been wearing for so long to hide behind. So when I'm talking about reinvention, it's actually about that reinvigoration of who you actually are in your essence. Hey Robin, true, we don't know what to do when we have freedom after being micromanaged. Right, going back to your true self, your soul, exactly. Michaela, yes, it can be scary. It can be scary, but here's the question I have for you. What feels more scary to you? Continuing to live your life the way you are, uninhabited, or living in a way where you are living your life on your own terms? What feels scarier to you? And while it can be scary to push past the edges of your own comfort zone, I'm here to tell you that the life that exists on the other side of that fear is beyond anything you can possibly imagine for yourself. Paula, recycling my spirit. I love that. I love that. So again, I don't want you to get bogged down in the logistics. I want you to know that telling yourself it's scary is a story and an affirmation. So as my dear friend Louise Hay would say, see what happens when you shift your language to say it used to be scary. Just see what happens when you shift your language. It used to be scary instead of it is scary. Allow yourself to have the experience of it not being scary. See what the story is that you're telling yourself around why it's scary. Tamara, just hearing you say the words reinvigoration of who you actually are in your essence makes it easier to breathe. I love that. Like there's more air in the room. Yes, space to be myself. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's all about the space to be yourself. So when I'm talking about the reinvention with intention or reinventing with intent, it is about the way in which you are coming to the table as you, not packaged to be something for someone else. So the reinvention is actually a return to you. Elizabeth, glimpsing that freedom has felt awesome, like cool, clean water. You're so right about defining your own terms to live, boundaries, as your lovely and amazing book teaches. You have been a huge positive force in my life. Elizabeth, thank you for that. I'm so glad to know that. So again, play with this. Play with this. Play with what is your truth? What do you want for you versus what everyone else wants for you? Play with what do you want freedom from and what do you want freedom to? What are you good at? What do you love to do? And what's the intersection? And what can you do to set yourself up to feel as prepared as possible? So like I said, I will be sharing a lot more around this in the coming weeks. This is just sort of to wet your whistle, and I want to support you in being able to shift the gears. Shift the gears in your life. This is about up-leveling so that you can live your most true you. All right, loves. I'm really glad you were here with me today. We're here every Thursday, Inside Transform Together, and we'll be back again next week.